guys. Today we're doing the build of the drone from Oblivion, specifically drone 166. This is a free file on Thingiverse. It comes with all these pieces. Everything's printed out. There's a few little things I need to do. Now I have built this before years ago. I resin printed this one. This is the same file. And like I said, this is resin printed. I did add some lighting effects to this one. And what else? I recently redid this one. It was on a crappy base, and so I redid the base. I gave a new paint job. Originally it had some weathering and stuff, and I never really liked that weathering look, so this one's a little bit glossy. I don't know if that's Canon. I don't think it's really glossy, but I just gave it kind of a new look to it. So this is the file, and decided to go bigger with it, and printed all this out using my Bamboo A1 except for one part. I have another printer coming, the new Anycubic Cobra X, I believe it is, but I haven't received it yet. It's still in the process of being shipped. My A1's just the quality has declined on it a little bit, and I'm just having some issues, so I've ordered a new printer. Anyway, I did manage to get all this printed out. There will be some cleanup on here. So I want to talk about all the parts. Obviously, we have the two parts of the main droid kind of cut in half here. We have some inner walls that will close that off. You got two sections for the guns, and they just kind of slide into place like that, which is nice because this part is black and that part's white, so I can paint them separately and then just put them together here. You have these carriages that kind of hold the guns out and attach to the inner wall kind of like that. And so, of course, a lot of this stuff was just reprinting the same part. They're symmetrical. I have the faceplate of our droid 166. Now I filament printed this one, and it's a little bit rough. You can see where I sanded off. So it was a nice warm day. I keep my resin printer out in the outdoor shed, so when it's cold, I really can't use it. But it's warm today, so I fired it up and printed that faceplate to give it a little bit nicer finish. And it is. It's a bit nicer looking than this one. I think I could clean this one up and it would be acceptable, but this was a pretty quick print. And of course, that will just kind of fall into place like that. We have some engine nozzles. We have auxiliary engines, main engines, and I'm not sure what these are, but they have little nozzles on them. Now I have made changes to the file, the original file, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that. We'll first start off with the kind of faceplate. This part's solid. I imported this into Tinkercad and made an opening in here. And one thing about this is 200% scale. It's twice as big as this one. This is how big the file is. If you just print it out at the scale that it comes in, that's the 100% scale. So this one's twice as big. Now on this one, I think I just kind of drilled out all the holes necessary to do the lighting and stuff, and made some modifications because this is all solid. And what I did is, again, I imported this into Tinkercad. I made an opening right here. This is one solid piece, so I made an opening and went all the way through, so I wouldn't have to worry about trying to cut through and destroy the plastic. I also made openings right here so we can run our LEDs up into the secondary engines. So those were the changes I made on this body here. Now the engine nozzle was one piece, kind of like that, and it was all solid. So I imported it in and cut away that kind of donut shape right here, so I can put some clear styrene, kind of put this around it, and we will be able to light that. Now I did go back and change that into another part where I also put an opening in here so I can run a light in here. Now again, this was blown up to 200%, so when I put the hole, I wanted to put a 10 millimeter LED in here, so knowing that it was going to be twice the size, I cut the hole at a little over 5 millimeters, 5.1, 5.2, knowing that it would double in size. This is a 10 millimeter LED, and that will fit right into that. And so we'll have some lighting going on around and the outside of it, and then you'll have a bright light kind of coming around or right through the center of it. Secondary nozzles, same thing. I knew they were going to be blown up to 200%. So again, I cut a hole in the center of it that it will fit our 10 millimeter LEDs, and those will fit through here. You get the point. And the secondary engines will go right here. And that just kind of comes in. I didn't bring, when I cut the hole, I just brought it down to here, just enough so I can access the wire. Now the model does come with these openings on both sides of the body and main body. I think originally they were about 3 millimeters, so they're about 6 millimeters now. I did find some brass tubing. The file didn't include anything like that, but I did find some 6 millimeter brass tubing that fits in there nicely. And when I go to connect that, I'll put these pieces of tubing in here, and I'll be able to now help center the model. Once I join it, of course, it's going to be some gap filling, but not too bad. That should center the whole model. So I think that as far as all the altercations, I didn't model this. I printed this out, so I did have to cut a hole in here. It kind of comes out through here to run my red LED for its single lit eye. So one nice is this thing is the way to separate. I'll be able to paint a lot of parts that are different. The main body's white, but a lot of these other parts are black or dark gray. So I'll be able to paint. The engine parts are chrome, so I'll be able to paint all this kind of individually and then attach them once it's all painted without having to mask very much, if anything, off. I have some smaller nozzles that kind of go on here. I did have to they're not symmetrical, and I'm not sure why. So you have one that's kind of shorter and longer, but this one's also a bit smaller, so I did have to go back and print at about 1.5 times the original size, and that seems to work pretty good. So that's all the parts, the modifications I made. There will be some added on. There's like some probes that come out the front and also on the sides of the droid. We'll have to take some kind of copper wire or something, and we'll put those in. That'll be one of the last things I do before painting, but we'll need to add those in. Now, as you can see, there's a lot of texture showing. This is pretty much from the 3D file, whatever program. Again, it's free, so you have to take what's worth. So there's going to be a bit of post-processing, a bit of sanding. You can already tell where I've done some sanding right here. There's a bit of a rough spot right here that I worked on sanding. And then we'll go in. I'm going to use some Bondo. I'm waiting for it to get in. I don't think it's due for a couple of days, so maybe delayed. Bondo thinned down and put on there and sanded. We'll use some filler primers that will do the heavy lifting as far as smoothing all this out and getting rid of all these layer lines. We do have some layer lines in there from the actual 3D printer flaw. We have a few minor flaws. Most of that will be fixed with the Bondo and the filler primer. And I still have to print out some kind of base. So it'll probably be something very similar to this, maybe a little bit bigger, that will hold my 9-volt battery and have a place for a switch to connect. And that's just kind of my own design that I designed on Tinkercad that I've used now. And again, probably next thing is just joining these parts together. And another good thing about the way this is made is I can go ahead and join this and do all the kind of body work to it. And then I can start figuring out the lighting and add stuff in once it's painted. But that's where it's at. That's all the parts. And I'm just going to get busy connecting this body together and start working on sanding and things of that nature. And when it comes to sanding, you can see like these parts here, it was printed flat. So when you get this kind of small rounded off area, it's kind of hard for a filament printer to adjust for that. That's why you get that stair stepping. So in this one, you can kind of see where I've already started sanding. I'm just using like 150 sandpaper at first and then going to like 320 and even finer to smoothen that out. So that's where I'm at, and we'll come back after I get some work done. All right, well, here's my progress so far on our Oblivion droid. I got the two halves put together using some of those brass rods to connectors to hold it all together. And then used just some super glue and some baking soda to help give it a strong bond. And went ahead and drilled a hole in, put my mounting rod in, and used first some like super glue and baking soda to hold in place, and then a little bit of epoxy putty on the inside and outside. And you can see where I've kind of sanded this down. I've done quite a bit of sanding on this to start smoothing it out. I still have to do, I'm waiting on some Bondo to get here to start covering the small gaps, as you can see here, but overall starting to look pretty good. So that part's all done. And well, it's ready to be put the Bondo and stuff. I do have some of the other smaller parts already painted up. I have these outside parts that hold the guns. They have been sanded and primed. These parts will be white like the main body. But there's quite a bit of sanding again and several layers of primer to get those ready. The actual gun parts that kind of go in the middle of those, you can see two versions. This is after being primed, and then a black primer coat, kind of the last part. And then this is with a satin coat, which I think I'm going with this as the finished look. And of course, those will just slide into here like that. And this will be white. I have some of my nozzles. I think I have all the nozzles painted up. Just using a Rust-Oleum chrome paint over a black finish, like a black gloss finish. You can see the rings here. I've created a light diffuser that this will set on top and diffuse the light, and then this will glue to that, so we can have that full ring of light going on. We have some of the bigger nozzles here chromed up and ready to go. There's some defects here and there, but not too bad from, the 3-foot rule. Smaller nozzles, I have some pins cut out. I have some guitar wire cut out for the little probes that come off these little parts here. And up front, I got some bigger parts. I've drilled out holes, so those will all fit in and can be glued in once it's ready for painting. I have the face plate here all painted up. And again, I used just a kind of a black primer, then a satin coat, and then I went in with a acrylic paint pen, a white, to do the white lettering. I have a little bit of silver accent on some of the smaller areas. So that's all ready to go. I have my base printed out, and this is a base that I designed. I've been using them for a while now. I can make them bigger or smaller depending on the model. It's designed to fit this size aluminum tube. That is our support rod. And I've widened the middle section here, so we have plenty of area for that metal tube to hold on to. I have a place for my battery. There's a 1-inch magnet that has a spot that it glues into, and then that will hold our battery. It's plenty strong to hold it, just sitting still. Obviously, if you bang it against something, it might come down a little bit. You can put some little tabs on the feet if you want, and it has a place for our switch. Just needs to be painted up, and that will be good to go. I have the extenders, I guess you would say, for the guns. They're all painted up. I think I'm going to do some dry brushing on these, and then they'll get another like clear coat on top of that. So really, that's about all the parts. Really just waiting on my Bondo to get here so I can work on getting this smoothed out, and then we'll work on getting that painted up. All right, I have the main body all primed up and ready to be painted. I'm pretty happy with how it has turned out. As you can see, most of the layer lines are pretty much gone and visible. The seam line's mostly gone. If you really look, you'll see a little, some imperfections. And there are some imperfections here and there, but I think mostly it's going to look just fine, especially once we add another layer. A couple of coats of paint and clear coat we're going on here. As you can see here, these outer shells have been painted, and I'm using this Rust-Oleum, I believe it's Rust-Oleum flat white paint, and then a acrylic gloss coat. And I plan on doing another coat or two of clear gloss on these parts. It's going to be a shiny, brand new factory model. There's a little roughness right here, but you won't see that. That's where the actual gun inserts will go. And they will just, if I line them up correctly, and we'll just slide in like that. And of course we'll glue them. And we have to glue those to these kind of extenders that come out, you know, look like that. So it's coming together. I'm going to go ahead and get this painted up. And once we kind of get this painted and everything clear coated and ready to go, we'll start with assembly. Still trying to figure out this back lighting. I think what I'm going to do is I have a piece of styrene, see I kind of bend in the shape, and it's going to hold a single 10 millimeter white LED, and that will illuminate this section. I've cut this clear piece of plastic here and sanded it. Styrene is what I'm trying to get out and say. This clear styrene, I've cut it to shape so it will fit inside of that. And then we can do our engine nozzle like so. And then it will light. And then this will have a kind of a bright light in the center. It'll be kind of brighter in the center there, and it will be illuminated. Not super bright, but that will be illuminated around the inner part. So that's the thinking on the light situation. So basically we'll just be running 4 LEDs, one here, got 2 up here, and then one a red 5mm for the eye. So I'm going to get on with paint. We'll come back once this is painted up and clear coated, and we'll be working on assembly. All right, have my body all painted up. I did 2 coats of this Rust-Oleum's Painter's Touch flat white. I like using flat colors. They dry faster, so if you're doing multiple coats, it's a little quicker to do a flat coat. And then once I allowed that to dry, I went in with some clear acrylic matte. I think it's the same product. I get this at Hobby Lobby, but it's a gloss coat. I like using, they make a matte, a satin, and a gloss. Hobby Lobby, I guess it's like a store brand, but it works really well. I use them all the time and don't really have any issues, never really had any issues with it. So you can see here our model. I'll probably do one more gloss coat. It's a little flat right here, but I'm pretty happy with how the finishes come up. It's pretty smooth. There's some flaws here and there, but nothing major. Overall, I think it's going to look pretty good. As you can see, I've installed the faceplate here. I've ran the wiring for the red light here. So really all that's left right now is just to put everything together, wire up our LEDs. Again, it's only going to be 4 LEDs in total. The back may be not as bright. And you also see I've also glued in my light diffuser here. So when that goes, we'll be able to mount our nozzles directly onto that light diffuser like that, so we get the glow all the way around it. You can see where I have the guns put together. I think I need to glue these inside here, but otherwise this part's glued to the arms that come out. And I did a little bit of UV resin right here to give that like a sensor look, a little bit of like a glass cover. I did the same thing on the faceplate. There was a spot right here, kind of looks like a lens, so I did some UV resin to give it kind of a lens look on that. So I'm going to get this all put together, get it wired up, and we'll come back and look at the finished Oblivion droid. Here's my finished droid from Oblivion, and overall I'm pretty pleased, especially with the issues I was having with my printer. I have finally figured out what was wrong with my Bamboo A1. There was some screws behind the nozzle that you had to kind of remove the nozzle and move a plate and tighten those screws, and it seems to be working good. It just had some loose screws affecting the print nozzle. Anyhow, we kind of overcame that with the processing, sanding, using some filler primer, stuff of that nature to get the layer lines, hide the seam line. The seam line's pretty much invisible. Remember, this was joined right across the middle light here, and that is pretty much invisible now. If you look really closely, you may be able to see a few little marks on it. Putting together, there's a few little oops putting it together. I dinged it kind of down here. It's kind of covered up with some paint. Just some errors putting it together. We'll go ahead and cut the lights on. Of course, we have the red eye there, which is the ominous looking red eye. We have the engine lights. Pretty happy how all that came out. I think that's a nice effect down here. It's not super bright, but I think it's a nice glowing effect. And of course, these are nice. Again, there's just 4 LEDs. You got 4 10mm white LEDs, and of course a 5mm red LED in there. So anyway, it's a fun project putting it all together, and I hope you've enjoyed the video. Until next time, everybody have a good one.